guys, here's here, and this is Apple's 11th iPhone. It's crazy, right? It's the best iPhone ever, as it should be, as every new iPhone is. What exactly does that mean? This is my iPhone 6s review after 2 months of extensive use. So take away the iPhone 6 Plus, and Apple's never made a big phone. They've never made a phone that makes you reconsider how much of a bulge you want in your pocket or how many hands you want to hold your phone with. And the same goes for the iPhone 6s. It's the same height and width as the iPhone 6, and it's one of the most compact flagship phones on the market. Granted, it's due to the slightly smaller screen, but it's still a device you don't have to adapt to, and that's appealing to many people, including me. Now, it's a hair thicker and heavier than the iPhone 6. Yeah, I know, sucks. But if you've never used an iPhone 6 or you didn't use it for very long, this won't be any concern of you. But if you're like me who used the iPhone 6 for a year, it definitely is noticeable. The 6s, much like the 6 and all other iPhones, gets the small things right. Tactile buttons positioned on opposite sides make them easy to find and press, and the underrated mute toggle on the side is a foolproof way of adjusting mute, vibrate, and sound. The headphone jacks on the bottom, which I prefer, as well as the reversible lightning connector and speaker. Now, just below the home screen is the physical home button, which I'm also a fan of, and it doubles as a fingerprint scanner, aka Touch ID. It's now faster and more reliable than ever, to the point where it's hard to imagine any improvement in future iPhones. It doesn't require a hold. All you have to do essentially is press the button, and that's enough to unlock it. For those concerned about missing notifications on the lock screen because Touch ID is too quick, there's a few simple fixes. Use a different finger, use a different part of your registered finger, or just use the power button. It's really not a big deal. And yes, it still works great for hostage situations, as I learned last year. Although the phone looks identical to the iPhone 6, there are a few distinct changes. On the bottom of the back, the FCC info has been removed and an S badge has been added. There's also the new color option, rose gold, or depending on the light, pink. Something you might not notice is the new material. Although it does have a slightly different texture, it's not super noticeable. It's been upgraded from 6000 series aluminum to 7000 series aluminum, so basically it's stronger and less likely to bend if you apply all of your strength to it. Now, one area that hasn't seen any strength improvements would be the screen. I'm not just talking about shattering, although from what I've seen it might be slightly stronger than iPhone 6, but I'm talking about scratches. It's very easy to cover your iPhone 6s screen with hairline scratches, and that's why I put a screen protector on mine to, well, try to limit those. But the screen is still very good. 4.7 inches, it's plenty big to browse the web and enjoy games or videos, and even though it's not the best screen on the market anymore, Samsung's probably taking that crown, it's still more than enough to get the job done. 4.7 inches is big enough, and I definitely like the screen size because it's still a compact phone. And iPhones are well known for having really accurate displays. They might not be the most vibrant or saturated screens, but they are pretty accurate. They do get pretty bright and they are pretty visible outdoors, but I wish it could get dimmer so that when I'm using it at night, it's not hurting my eyes. I'm generally a person that has my brightness pretty low. Now on the front, there's the improved front-facing camera, up from the dismal 1.2 megapixels on the 6 to 5 megapixels on the 6s, and it also includes a flash, very similar to Snapchat. Now, it still only records 720p video, which is kind of annoying, but not a huge deal. Also receiving a megapixel boost is the rear camera. Up from 8 megapixels on the 6 to 12 on the 6s, it opens the door for a lot more creativity. Almost any shot you take on the 6s will just be sharper and crisper than shots on the 6. Pictures maintain Apple's natural colors, so pictures will be pretty true to life. It doesn't have optical image stabilization, which means low light shots have room to grow. By no means are low light shots bad, but they're definitely better phones on the market for low light shots. Also much improved is video. Now, I'll firmly state that iPhones have the best slow-mo and time-lapse videos of any phone on the market, and it stays true for the 6s. 240 frames per second slow-mo is smooth and it's really fun. Time-lapse videos are super cool and allow you to get very creative, and they look even better than the iPhone 6 did. There's also 4K video at 30 frames per second. Now, I don't really shoot in 4K just because there isn't necessarily a need for it, but when I do, now under the hood, Apple finally upgraded to 2 gigs of RAM, and it shows. Especially multitasking. Apps stay open longer and take less time to refresh. It's also very noticeable in Safari when you have multiple tabs open. Things just work better. Also on the 6S is the A9 chip, which is on top of iOS 9, and it's super smooth. Rarely any complaints in terms of speed and performance. It's just really solid. Now on paper, the iPhone 6S has a smaller battery than the iPhone 6, but battery life is pretty much the same, which is to say, not good. It charges in under 2 hours and even faster if you use a higher powered charging brick, and standby time is great. I'd probably qualify as a power user, waking up early and using Snapchat and listening to music throughout the day. I do use my phone a lot and I use it kind of heavily, but still, not once has it ever gotten me through a full day, which is the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. It's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things because I'm often near a charger or an external battery, but if you were to forget your charger and go out for a night, well, you better put your phone in low power mode or just not use it at all. And speaking of low power mode, that brings us to iOS 9. iOS 9 is really making iOS a pretty well-rounded operating system. Customization is still far behind Android, but notification center widgets are ever growing, sharing options are now abundant, you can say "Hey Siri" to activate Siri, a revamped Notes app, improved Maps, iCloud Drive, a new smarter Spotlight search, and text scrolling on the keyboard all add up to make a more feature-packed experience, making iOS more powerful but still very intuitive and easy to use. So now the only thing I really haven't mentioned is 3D Touch. On the iPhone 6S, the screen recognizes how hard you're pressing and will do different actions accordingly. It's something that I pretty much only use for multitasking, which I love, and text scrolling, which could be definitely improved. I sometimes use it for quick viewing, or peeking as Apple calls it, to preview web pages, profiles, pictures, etc. It's a cool technology, but it really depends on the user for how useful it is. My dad can't live without it, but I'm not as impressed yet. But one thing I do know for sure is that it's in the hands of the developers to make 3D Touch really cool and something that you can't live without. So there's a lot less than everything about the iPhone 6S that has changed. It now has 2 really solid cameras, a blazing fast processor, and very cool screen technology. But it's a design that's now falling behind the competition, although a skin can definitely fix that. But it's a thicker and heavier body with a less than amazing battery, and it starts at ridiculous 16 gigabytes of storage, basically making this an automatically $750 phone, especially if you're recording in 4K video. It's ridiculous that Apple is starting this as 16 gigabytes. But it fits well into my life. I don't really have to adapt to use it, and there's not one feature about it that I really dislike. So that's the iPhone 6S. Those are my thoughts and opinions, and I'd love to hear your educated thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video in any way, a like and subscribing would go a long way. Thank you very much.